Hey guys, so I know standardized test prep, sometimes the questions can be a little bit more difficult or seem more difficult. So I'm going to go over a few of these that were frequently missed questions on the Unit 6 test, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to earn a few points back if you choose to do so. All right, let's get started. So the first question says, Emily bought a car for $21,000. The value of Emily's car depreciates, remember depreciates goes down, by 20% each year. Which function can be used to determine the price of the car, f of x, after t years of the purchase? All right, so if you remember, anytime you're looking at exponential function, it's going to be y equals, and you're going to have a times 1, and it's going to be plus if it goes up, if it's gain in value, or minus your interest rate if it goes down. And then we're using exponential, so we can put a t for t years here. So in this case, we're going to have exponential decay because it depreciates. So instead of having plus or minus, this case we're just going to have 1 minus r to the t power. All right, so we know that the initial value A is going to be your 21,000. You can see that's in all of the cases here. And then depreciates, again, you're taking 100%, subtracting 20%. So that's going to be 80%. So it has to be this first function here to represent that. So just remember, 1 really represents like 100% minus whatever percent. So 1 minus 20%. Remember percent as a decimal. Move it 2 decimal places. And then this would be 21,000. 1 minus 0.2 is 0.8 to the t power. So that's the only one that could work. Now, if this says that it gained value by 20%, it would be this function here, but because it depreciates, it's this one, okay? And very rarely, like we're not going to use a negative exponent. Remember, a negative exponent means this is 1 over whatever that is, and would make that actually a fraction. So it's not going to be that. All right, we'll move on to the next one. All right, the next question says, Helen earns $750 a month selling magazine subscriptions. She also gets a commission of X dollars for each of the first 100 magazine subscriptions she sells. The commission increases, okay, by 20% for each magazine she sells beyond or above 100. Which function represents her monthly earnings, Y in dollars, if she sells 150 magazines that month? Okay, so we know that she's going to earn $750 right off the top. So that's her monthly salary. So you can see again here, all of them start with $750. She's going to earn $750 if she doesn't sell any magazines. Okay, but then it says she gets X dollars for each 100 of the first 100 magazines. So you can eliminate this one and this one because this one says X for 50 magazines. So it has to be this one or this one. And then it says it increases by 20%. So it's going to be 20% times X. And then you want to increase. So remember we said if we're increasing, it's going to be 1 plus the interest rate. Okay. So that means it's going to be 1.2. And then it says if she sells 150 magazines. So we've already accounted for 100 magazines. So she's going to sell another 50 magazines, and her commission is going to be 1.2x. So this one is the best answer. Okay, so that would be C. So that one, you have to look at all the parts and just kind of put it together. So the 750, that's the easy part. Okay, and then the X times the first 100 magazines, that should be pretty easy too. So that makes you down to only 2 choices after that if you eliminate those 2. And then you just have to remember that this increases. So it's going to go up by 20%. If you choose A, they're going to add 20%, but they didn't keep the 100% that they started with. So 1, again, represents the 100%. If you multiply anything times 1, say 750 times 1 is 750. And then if you do 750 times 1.2, that's going to give you that 20% increase. Remember, if you don't have the 1, then this is just going to be a fraction of that. Like that would actually be less money, and you wouldn't want that. So that's number 2. So let's move on to the next one. All right, the next one says a new Honda Civic costs $22,000 the year it's made. This car depreciates, losing value at a rate of 5% each year on average. After 3 years, what is the amount the car has lost? Okay, so this one you got to remember what the question is, but the first thing we have to do is figure out if the car depreciates, it's going to lose 5% each year. The first thing we have to do is find out how much is the value of the car after 5 years. So you're going to set up your equation. 22,000. Depreciate means it's going down, so it's going to be 1 minus, remember percent to decimal is 2 decimal places. And then it says after 3 years. Okay, so let's get our calculator and see what this says. So we're going to do 22,000 times 1 minus 0.05 and then raised to the 3rd power. All right, so that's going to give us $18,862.25. If you're not careful, you're going to choose that, and it's not going to be the right answer. This is the value of the car after 3 years. This question says, what is the amount the car lost in value? Okay, so it's very tricky if you don't read the question again and make sure you know that the value it lost is going to be the original value minus how much it cost after 3 years. So you got to subtract the difference of what it cost after 3 years. So 18,862.25. So this one, the answer is actually that answer. And again, because you have to take the original value and subtract what the value is after 3 years. So again, just the wording, you just have to be very careful. They want to see that you truly know how to do the problem. And reading the questions carefully will help you do that. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, the next question says one earns a fixed weekly salary of $250 plus X% as commission on the sales he made that week. In a particular month, he made sales of $30,000 in the first week and $45,000 in the second week. Which function represents his total earnings, Y in dollars, for 2 weeks? All right, so if he has a fixed weekly salary of $250 each for 2 weeks would be $500. So you're going to start with $500. So if you're not careful, you would choose one of the 250s, but be aware that it's going to be $500 is going to be for 2 weeks, 250 plus 250. All right, so it says plus X commission on sales he made that week. All right, so the first week he made $30,000 in sales, and the second week he made $45,000. If you add that together, 30 and 45 is $75,000. And it says he made X% on that. So the best answer here is going to be the last choice. All right, the next question says compare the 2 functions. All right, so you've got function 1. This is a graph, and it gives you function 2. It gives you an equation and a table. All right, so it's easier to compare two things if you have the same form. So let's graph this function since they give us an equation. So it's y equals, f of x is the same as y equals 10 times 2 to the x power. So 10 times 2 raised to the x power, and then drop that back down and minus 15. Okay, if you remember transformations, that means it's shifting down 15. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so you got an exponential equation here. So it says which statement is true? So for x greater than or equal to 1, the value of function 1 is always greater than value 2. Well, when x is 1, this is your x-axis. When x is 1, it's all the way down here at negative 6. And 2 is all the way down here to negative number. And if you look here, at 1, it's already positive and it's increasing exponentially. So we know this one is not true. Function 1 is not greater. Here it says function 1 will sometimes be greater. No, because exponential function is going to grow faster than this. So that one is not true either. The next one says for x greater than 1, the value of function 2 will always be greater than function 1. All right, so this is growing exponentially. It's already greater at 1, and so that will be the best answer. So your answer for this one is C. Now the next one says for x greater than or equal to 1, it will sometimes be, but the fact that both of these are going to infinity, this one exponential function, again, is always going to grow faster. So this one would be this answer here. All right, this is very similar to the last one, except it gives us two equations. One is an exponential equation and one is a quadratic equation. And again, we just talked about this in the last question. Exponential equation is going to grow faster. So when it says which statement is true, so you got f of x and g of x. So f of x is exponential, g of x is quadratic. So as the value of x increases for all x greater than 2, the value of f will eventually be greater than the value of g of x. All right. As the value of x increases for all x greater than 2, the value of f of x will eventually be less than. Will x eventually be less than? We know that one cannot be true. And as the value of x increases for all x greater than 2, the value of f of x will be the same. That's not going to be true. And the relationship between the two functions as the value of x increases cannot be determined. That's not true either. So this one is going to be the first answer. F of x is exponential, so it is going to grow faster. All right, a small town's population P can be modeled by the equation P of T equals 45,000 times 2.66 to the T power, where T is time in years. Complete the table by determining which statements are true and false. All right, so there's 4 answers here, either true or false. So it says the initial population at year 0 is 45,000. That is true. The A value is always going to be your initial population or your initial value. All right, so it says the population of town at T equals 2 is 239,000. Well, how do you know that? Just take this equation and plug a 2 in. To save some time, I've already done that. 45,000 times 2.66 raised to the 2 years gives you 318,000. That is not this amount, so this is a false statement. The rate of population decay each year is 34%. Well, 1 plus something means it is a growth rate, so that cannot be true because that is not decaying. The rate of population growth is 166%. 1 plus 1.66 would be 166% growth, so that is true. So that's going to be all the time we have, but hopefully this helped, and hopefully you do well on the next group of questions. Good luck.